This spoiler-filled episode is brought to you by Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. They've got over 180,000 different titles for you to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Make sure if you have not yet seen Endgame, pause it now. Just trust me. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Jumbled, your favorite podcast about nothing. I'm Zach.
I'm Johnny.
How's it going, man?
Good. I think before we go any further, this is a Jumbled special episode. Spoilers are coming.
Spoilers abound.
We are going to do our best to stay on topic for the next few minutes. Anywhere between 5 minutes and 5 hours. And we are going to talk just about Endgame.
Yeah.
And we will put that in the title. It should be in the title.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen Endgame yet, there's no excuse. It's been a week.
Yeah, it was released last weekend.
And if you care that much that spoilers are going to ruin your day, you probably should have gone and seen it by now.
Yeah, you should have carved out 3 hours of time.
Yeah. So spoiler, 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 alert, alert, alert.
Yep. And here comes here comes the spoiler alert audio.
Oh yeah, I love the spoiler alert audio.
Holy shit, it's a spoiler alert. Bend down, grab your ankles, and prepare to take whatever bullshit they're getting ready to cram into your ears. Haven't seen the movie yet, have you? Oh, too bad.
All right, Zach. Let's get into it.
Okay.
First, I was thinking about things to talk about, and I feel like I might be slightly more in touch with the Marvel Universe than you. I don't know, though. I could be wrong.
I mean, you've definitely probably read more of the comics than I have, for certain.
Okay. But I wanted to get, a sense of how did you feel about the movie?
In general?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, just as a pure entertainment, getting blasted in the face with light, what did you think about it?
Well, I feel like they made it 3 hours for a reason.
Are you upset about the 3 hour time?
No, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like they bounced around so much. I don't think it was not a bad movie. I loved the movie, but I feel like if a movie is 3 hours, you probably could have split it off into 2 movies.
Yeah, but the thing about that is then you have this awkward year release, and they needed to wrap up the story.
Yeah.
And they could have filmed it all and had, here's 3 hours, and they could have cut it, and there might have been some natural places to end. But I love that it was 3 hours. That it was like a farewell to a generation of films that has completely changed the film industry.
100%.
And the actors that are in it, and I liked it was 3 hours. Ali's first question was, "Is there an intermission?" And I said, "No, I don't think. I doubt it." It would have been. I think it would have taken me out of the experience. To be honest, I never felt that it was too long.
Yeah, I mean, it flowed really well. It just sort of felt like every once in a while I caught myself going, how long have I been sitting here?
Yeah.
There were like in the moments in like the downtimes where, they're trying to, I don't know, where they're trying to figure out what their next move is, whether they're going to go into the, figuring out the quantum realm and all that stuff.
Yeah, they kind of, I get it. Like, they definitely expressed through that. Like, Tony Stark just chilling with a glass of wine or something, and it's like, oh, I figured this out.
Yeah.
I get the sense that people thought there's a lot going on. And honestly, that was my challenge first with Avengers in general, and I think Marvel did it so well, and it's a testament to how well those movies are doing versus the DC ones, because the DC ones suck because they tried to cram 10 years worth of work into
Right.
an hour and a half.
They're trying,
and it's just
yeah,
not going to happen.
trying to
right?
play catch up. Yeah.
44 hours of film
Yeah.
to lead up to this movie, right?
That's
This
true.
3-hour masterpiece that literally closes a chapter on so much. So
Yeah.
I loved when they did Iron Man, and I loved when there's Easter eggs towards Avengers, because if you like Avengers, then you were hoping that was coming.
Right.
And then when there's the Easter egg for Thor's hammer, and you're like, holy fuck, there's going to be a Thor. But then when they do Avengers, the first Avengers, you're kind of like, well, how the fuck are they going to take all these mainline characters
Right.
and shove them in? And I think they did it really well. And Infinity War, I got the same sense. I was excited for Infinity War. I knew it was going to happen, but I was excited for it to take place.
Dude, what a gut wrencher that Infinity War. Like, I know we're talking about Endgame, but that really sort of set up Endgame and the anticipation of, like, well, you sort of had a feeling that they're gonna figure out how to make this all right, like.
Well, yeah. So Marvel kind of fucked themselves because they do those, like, the next 5 years in review, like upcoming movies.
Yeah.
So you saw that some characters that died in Infinity War had movies coming out in 2020. So you
Right.
knew that something was going to happen.
Spider-Man.
And yeah, well, Spider-Man was one of the biggest ones. And honestly, Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man ever. And
Yeah. Oh,
Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man from, like, our generation,
Sure. because
because that was the first, Spider-Man, and that was like a game-changing movie. And I know we've talked about it.
was that the
but
first? Sorry to sidetrack. Is that the first big Marvel movie?
yes,
Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
and they managed to fuck it up so many times
Yeah.
after that. But it was really them consolidating all of the Marvel universe. So I think Spider-Man was originally under Fox, so that was the issue, right? That
Yeah.
Marvel didn't really have any desire to make movies, so they gave some studios certain pieces of their content, and others other pieces, and that you didn't have a concise world, and that was honestly an issue that I had with Avengers and Infinity War and Endgame, is that there are some X-Men that I wanted to be part of that experience, and especially in Civil War, Wolverine plays a bigger part in Civil War. A part, I shouldn't say a bigger part, but a part of it. And I just love Wolverine, but those are owned by two different studios now, so you unfortunately can't have that. But
Yeah, I feel like they. I've been like watching like tons of YouTube videos since I saw it on Tuesday, so this past Tuesday. So I've had a while to sort of try to digest it and look at theories and things, how they're going to move forward. And I heard something about them potentially opening up room for X-Men after this movie. I don't know if it had something to do with the snap or
well,
I can't. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. That I agree though. I think there's a space for them though.
the only way I think they do that is with the timeline issues in the multi-universe, that they basically said this is a multi-universe. So who knows? I think the most likely that they'll start bringing in will be Fantastic Four. And there is time travel and interdimension travel linked to Fantastic Four, so that could open up a new loop for them to get involved. But I mean, even X-Men has rebooted and new timelines and like shit with Wolverine. Like, it's so, I would almost at this point be okay if they just kept that a separate universe.
Yeah.
Just to keep it clean. But anyway, we digressed already.
That's not good.
So Endgame, I loved it.
Yeah.
I had a few bones to pick with it.
Okay.
I would say the ending.
You didn't really like the ending?
I loved what Cap did.
Mm-hmm.
As far as
part?
going back,
Okay.
going back and then living, his what his life should have been.
Sure, what he wanted it to be all along.
Mm-hmm. And I know some people, really dig into the super serum theory and how did he come back old? But we actually don't know how long he spent in that other world, right? Because you remember it was before he goes, they say, well, how long will it take? And they said he has all the time that he needs. For us, it's only going to be 10 seconds. And he was gone for a few minutes while they were trying to figure out what was going on.
Sure.
So one of the theories is that, he might have spent 400 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And, helped that generation, that timeline's Avengers, and which, to the point where they don't need the shield. So he brings it back. And that's why he's older. So in the super serum, some people say it stops aging. Some people say it slows down aging.
That's the thing that I thought is his aging was stopped from the cryogenics that he was under. So that was the purpose of him not aging and not necessarily the super serum.
It wasn't cryogenics. It's just the super serum in general. So like Nick Fury has a version of it. That's why he's always around and even though he's old as fuck. I mean, it's hard with Samuel Jackson because he's actually getting old, and I mean they can make him look younger, but there's only so much you can do for so long.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about time travel, right? Is that we don't know in our world what that is like or what it can do. So they can make up any theory. They could come back and say, yeah, Cap actually lived 4 full lives.
It's true.
400 years, and then he came back, and he's going to look old because the super serum doesn't make you stop aging completely. It just, significantly slows it down, similar to Wolverine.
Sure.
Wolverine does get old. It just is a lot slower. So, and that would explain him bringing back the shield, and that would explain him being old and whatnot. But we don't know. That's all speculation. What I didn't like about that, I was fine with that part. I was fine that he came back old. I didn't like that he gave the shield to Sam.
No? You thought Bucky should have gotten it?
Yes.
Okay.
But after thinking about it, and so here's the issues. There's a universe in the comics where Cap dies and Bucky takes up the mantle.
Sure.
And then eventually Sam does get the shield. So it's not this completely ridiculous thing. But it's also sometimes can be really hard to make that separation between what you've read and what's on TV, and realizing that that's source material, but they're not following it verbatim.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I was kind of upset at first, but then I also get it. And then if you think about the Marvel Universe, there's a lot of breakdowns of why Bucky shouldn't get it. He's said that he doesn't want it previously. He's fairly been passive in combat. He's become a little bit of a pacifist with his time in Wakanda. He's still, potentially under Hydra mind control, so he could be completely worried about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that would make him not want it right away. So I'm kind of getting over it. I didn't know until after that there's going to be a TV show with Falcon and Winter Soldier, with Falcon carrying the shield, and Falcon, at least it was never really discussed, at least I don't think so in the movie universe, but Falcon does have a version of the super serum.
Okay.
So, because that's a lot of people were like, oh, he's just a dude in a suit like Iron Man. Like, why would he's not that special.
Right.
Whereas, Bucky is.
Sure.
And Bucky is definitely stronger. And I would say one of the other gripes that I've had with both Infinity War and this is that they really underutilized Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
Where, if you remember the Winter Soldier, he was, giving Cap a run for his money.
Oh, yeah.
And in many ways, like, beating the piss out of him, right? Like, it took a bunch of people to take him down.
Yeah.
And that didn't go away. Like, that he's still the same. He's just the same power. But in Infinity War and Endgame, he's like running around with this stupid fucking gun shooting,
Yeah,
and it does
they downplayed him a
absolutely.
lot.
Yeah, they downplayed him a lot. It does nothing. He didn't use his arm. He didn't do anything cool. He just you get some motion shots of him running and gunning, which is cool. But at the same time, like guns are just so in the Marvel universe dumb. Like
Yeah,
the like shots of Black Widow running with two pistols, dual wielding pistols, and just sending rounds at Thanos that you know is going to do nothing. Like why? Why do you even try?
right.
Like what are you doing?
Right. You expect people in the Marvel universe with guns to be the first ones that, get
Die.
yeeted up in the air by the Hulk,
Yeah. That's another one that they didn't I liked the character development with the Hulk. I think they again didn't use him properly, and there's some conversation around
Yeah.
the Hulk is scared because he lost, but you would hope that 5 years later this new enlightened Hulk and Bruce Banner combo would want a rematch with Thanos.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you would have got to see that. And I was hoping for that. Didn't happen. Hulk didn't really do.
He didn't really do anything. I mean,
Bruce Banner did, which is
Sure.
great.
I think
but-
I think what sums up the Hulk in this movie is when they go back to New York right before the battle in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And you see Hulk just like the previous Hulk just like completely like stomping on a car and like just
freaking God, that was
freaking
hilarious.
out. And then you see the new Hulk and he's like and he's just like
embarrassed by it.
right, and he just like punches a car. And he's like,
Yeah.
and he's like,
I'm
throws
angry.
something. Yeah, he throws something just a little bit away. But it's like that really summed up, I think, the Hulk for me in general. The Hulk has quickly become one of my favorites in the Marvel universe, because of the movies and how they've utilized him and just how much of a force he was in like Ragnarok and stuff like that. Like just
Yeah, I think that level of consciousness for the Hulk was a perfect amount where
Yeah.
he was kind of like a big baby, but he was aware you could communicate with him.
That was
but
the
he would rage.
yeah.
And Hulk's power, the angrier he gets, the more damage he takes, the stronger and bigger he gets.
right.
And the Hulk wasn't that big.
No, that's the thing. They were running into battle. There was a point where they were all running into battle, and the Hulk just looked like 1.5 Captain Americas. Like it didn't even look like I expect the Hulk to be 4 or 5 times bigger than everybody else on the
Yeah.
like he's not supposed to be double the size of everybody. He's supposed to be much bigger.
Yeah, so I struggle with that a little bit, but I get it.
Yeah, I really like the separation of Hulk and Banner. Like I get why they did it because it was part of it's part there was talks of it in the comic books and the Hulk goes through this whole Enlightenment period, but it just didn't translate well to an action movie.
Yeah, and I thought it was weird that he wanted to just walk around as the Hulk full time.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure there's going to be some really funny anime porns between
100%.
Hulk and ScarJo again.
Oh, 100%, yeah. But this time it's going to be more realistic because he's
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's like what was that line? That's the secret. I'm always angry, right? Like I guess that doesn't apply to current day Hulk, because Banner has sort of had to baby him enough to get him to even show a little bit, after he took a beating from Thanos. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I expected more from the Hulk, I think. And I expected at one point for there to be a clear divide where it was like, all right, Hulk, I realize that we both need each other, but I need you to
You need to go to
do
town.
your thing. Yeah, I need you to do your thing now and
And-
just leave me behind for a little bit,
There might be so one thing that I do think why they did this, where independent Hulk films before didn't do that well. Part of it was the time, part of it was they weren't that good.
Sure.
but so there's like, you could make an argument that the market doesn't want a Hulk movie because it's really hard to connect to that character, right? You can kind of connect to Bruce Banner, but he's this nerdy smart guy, and then you have this giant green thing that just crushes and has no dialogue,
right?
And it's really hard to find a balance for that. But I think having this more developed character, they might try and do a Hulk stand alone because he can carry the movie a little bit better now.
Sure.
But I don't know, like, that's a tough thing to do because of the previous Hulks have been bad.
Yeah, I mean the most recent one, I obviously was the best, but
Edward Norton was okay. Like, it was okay. It
Yeah.
wasn't great, but it was okay. I think Mark Ruffalo is the best Hulk. I think he fits it perfectly.
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
I was happy. I was happy about that change, I guess.
Yeah.
I love the Hulk too.
Yeah, I thought it was a great moment to have the Hulk being this great mixture, because it was sort of a comedic moment where it was like, okay, here's the Hulk, and it's 5 years later, and Bruce has somehow pulled him out just enough to control him and to utilize his strength and all that, which is really cool in and of itself, but it's so limiting. But it provided that sort of comedic moment where everybody's like, oh, this is sort of ridiculous that the Hulk is, wearing glasses, like, why is that a thing that is happening in this movie right now? And so
also a good question.
There was a chuckle, there was a chuckle from everybody in the audience. And then as the movie went on, it was cool that there was more dialogue from that character, like you said, but it just didn't feel like the same Hulk that I had come to love,
Yeah, I get that. What did you think about the Thor progression?
I loved it so much, dude.
I fucking died laughing when the camera first pans to him.
Yeah.
It's just blobbing it out. Just depressed, dreaded hair, dirty beard, gut.
I love the Fortnite mention at the beginning. Where he's like noob gamer 69 is back on the.
Talking shit.
Yeah, and then Thor's like, talking shit back to him, and
I'm the god of thunder. I will fly to your house and rip off your arms and shove them up your butt.
I think, Thor has always provided a lot of comedic content to the Marvel Universe because, being from Asgard, everything's different, so he's had to go through the whole process of learning the human race and how we do things, and he's put his own little spin on our customs and whatnot, and just to see him sort of fully embrace it, drinking beer and Fortnite and all these things was really funny to me. I will say, we're sort of skipping a little bit ahead with Thor, but that moment at the end where where they're in the battle and he just went full Viking, bearded, like a braided beard, and I was like, okay, this is a different level of Thor. Like, I don't even care that he's not jacked right now. Like, it's just pure will. Yeah.
I loved when he was back talking to his mom, and then he's really doubting himself and owned a lot of everyone there felt that they were to blame for the dusting,
right?
And you could say that aside from Star-Lord, who fuck Star-Lord, Thor should have went for the head and wouldn't have been an issue. Right. So he was really owning it. And then when he holds out his hand to call for Mjolnir, and it comes and his face lights up and he realizes that he's still worthy, he's still a hero, and that he can be a part of this. I thought that was pretty cute, and I loved when he's just dual wielding Stormbreaker and Mjolnir and just going to fucking town.
Oh my god, it was so great. The one part that I really appreciated about Thor in this movie was Well, just in general, I appreciated Thor because he still brought that same physicality that you come to expect from Thor, and just the general
Brute force. Yeah.
badassery that I've come to expect. But he also, like, there's that moment where he's talking to his mom, and his mom knows that it's not he's not current time Thor, you know, like he's Thor from the future, and she's like,
Eat a salad.
yeah, she's like, I know, time travel hasn't been good to you, and he's trying to play it off. She's like, I know I'm, what'd she say? Something about being a witch or something like that. And then he's like, I totally am from the future. You know, it's just sort of like a sort of breakdown moment, but
I wear this all the time. What are you talking about?
yeah. I like that there was an homage to the Big Lebowski. He definitely looked like Big Lebowski for a good majority of the film. That was awesome.
They call him that too.
Yeah, I think Tony Stark did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which he called, you know, in general Tony Stark fashion, just called everybody everything. What he called I can't remember that. Why can't I remember that character's name? The raccoon dude.
Rocket?
Yeah, Rocket. Called him Build-A-Bear. He called him like all kinds
Oh yeah, Build-A-Bear was so good.
He's like, I could have swore for 5 seconds there I thought you were Build-A-Bear. And you know, it was such a fantastic movie. And
how did you feel about early when they kill Thanos? They go back and they kill Thanos.
I think that was what everybody was waiting on.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it happened so early in the film that you knew there was more. You know, it wasn't like they're not going to introduce a new villain into Avengers Endgame. Like, it's not how this is going to pan out. So you knew that it wasn't going to be the last time you saw him, but it was a very cathartic thing, you know, because Thor finally got his moment, and you know, even though it wasn't, you know, how he would have liked for it to have gone down, it was good to see him get that moment. But it was also sort of, I don't know, it was sort of seemed a little sad for Thor too, you know, like.
Well, I think it's the adage that, you know, revenge doesn't make the pain go away.
Right.
He did it and then had that moment where I think he was like, fuck that.
They didn't do anything.
I'm still fucking bummed, and everyone is still dead, and I still failed, and
yeah. So
I don't know. Yeah. I liked it. It was cool. It was quick, and it was physical, like you said, the way he is. What did you think about Tony Stark and Iron Man? And
so I didn't like how quickly he gave up. You know, it seemed like at the beginning, you know, before they really brought him back into the fold, it sort of seemed like he just sort of called it quits. I understand why he did, because at that point he had a family and all these things that he really wanted for his life that had sort of come true for him. And he didn't want to risk it, you know. So I understand the reasoning behind it, but that's not been the Tony Stark that we've known.
Yes and no. Like he's wanted to quit for a while because he had massive like PTSD from the battle in New York.
Sure.
And almost dying there. And I liked that he died. I knew he was going to die. I did also struggle with it because he is the guy who's always trying to sacrifice himself. So early in the movie, you think he's going to die. And honestly, I would have been okay if that happened. If he died there. I think that
in space?
In space.
Yeah.
So then he comes back from death, again, barely, like 3 other times. And then, you know, he sacrifices himself essentially. And I thought it was good. I knew he was done. I think it was a good way to end that character line. But I don't know. I just felt like it was they played that card too many times, and it still hit home for me.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's stop and take a second to talk about our sponsor for today's podcast, Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled. Get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. The book that I am going to recommend, the audiobook I'm going to recommend rather, for the month of May. You know what? It might be spring, but winter is coming. That's right. This audiobook is A Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, Book 1. Guess how long this thing is? 33 hours and 46 minutes. Now, if you wanted to get some bang for your Audible buck, which there is no buck because you're getting a free audiobook, this is the one you want to pick out. You're getting over a day's worth of content here. This book is by George R.R. Martin, narrated by Roy Dotrice. I think it's a book about that daytime TV game show where they sell really fancy chairs. I guess winter is coming sometime soon. But I hope you guys enjoy. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled. And hey, somebody let me know how to get on that game show.
I don't know about you, but there were literally probably 3 or 4 times in that movie where my eyes teared up.
Yeah, I don't think I was really close whenever they doing the send off for Captain, or for not for Captain, but for Tony Stark, and I think, you know, it was a happy moment for Captain America, but it was more like a I don't know, it just felt like there had to have been another way, you know, that the whole thing could have gone down without Tony having to take it. You know, I mean, the Hulk earlier in the film wore the gauntlet, you know, and he was birthed from gamma radiation, so it's sort of like, it seemed like that was the natural progression, especially seeing as how the Hulk got his ass handed to him by by Thanos. I felt like that would have been a good full circle retribution moment for Hulk to really be able to. Can you imagine just like a 40-foot Hulk wearing the Infinity Gauntlet? You know, just fucking
Just smashing shit.
Yeah, like, can you, like, that's what I thought we were gonna end up seeing.
You know what I would have liked if they would have not gone from Infinity. I mean, I guess they had Ant-Man and Wasp came out in between. I love Hawkeye, and I love him as Ronin. That I don't know if that's the other thing too. Yeah. I don't know if people knew that was like him when he's just murdering everyone. That's his, like, his next alter ego is Ronin.
Yeah.
I wish they would have done. I think he could have carried a Ronin movie.
Well, but that's the thing about this. The way they set it up with the whole time traveling thing, there is space for that to be revisited.
Yeah, they could go back and say this is the in-between time, but I just don't think it would have. I think it would have been really cool, and it would have been challenging in the sense of having this great content that you're holding back, but to drag out that sadness period with a couple movies of here's what's going on. Here is Hawkeye losing his family and going on a murderous rampage, especially with the success of Deadpool and, you know, Logan in like a rated R fashion, to just say, Hawkeye, go and gut some people.
Sure.
And I would have eaten that shit up.
Yeah, I think another thing you just have to keep in mind is just the time constraints, right? Because they're still trying to push the Avengers plot line forward.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't want there to be too much time in between Avengers movies, you know. So it's you almost just have to, like, either work all those actors sort of like slaves and just have them constantly producing Marvel content and then be releasing it on a quicker schedule. Yeah. Or
that's true.
Or you're
I would
gonna
have been
to,
okay with that.
Or you're gonna have to revisit it. I mean, that's really. But that's the only downside of that is you already know how it ends, right?
Yeah.
You know how his storyline ends.
Exactly. So it won't be I mean, they might do it because it will sell.
Hmm.
Ali said something that opening weekend Endgame made $1 billion.
Yeah,
Opening weekend,
biggest box office numbers ever.
and I don't know where they're gonna go from there. Like, I I get the next generation, and if they bring in Fantastic Four, which is also a series that Sony has butchered,
Hmm.
um, I don't know if I will be as invested in it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've grown with these characters, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
with the exit of Captain America as we've known him, Steve Rogers, and then the exit of Tony Stark, that leaves a lot more space for people like Spider-Man, or for hopefully they figure out what to do with Hulk. That leaves, or Thor. I mean, I'm really excited for the
As
possible
Guardians of the Galaxy.
as Guardians. I'm really excited for the possibility of that actually becoming a thing. But the thing about it is, as Guardians of the Galaxy was, I think, created last year in 2018, like in the comic books. So
Mm-hmm.
you almost wonder if as Guardians of the Galaxy was something that was made as a direct result of the movie, or if it was something that they, had planned to do for a bit. I am excited to see Thor in whatever the next stage is. Um, I will say I do appreciate there being a more rotund superhero, but I do anticipate Thor probably going back to his
Oh, I can't
chiseled
imagine that
body.
I'm sure he'll come back. Apparently, like leading up to Infinity War and Endgame, a lot of them were complaining about the fitness and diet routine that they have to go. Even honestly, Tony Stark, when he came out of space and he was sitting in the wheelchair, he looked old and frail. And I mean,
Yeah,
some of it might be CGI, but I know some actors
he's
really.
very gaunt, very thin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, and it'll be cool to see who picks up the Iron Man mantle.
I like I said, I think it's got to be Peter Parker, Spider Man, because I mean they were
He'll stay
close.
as ultimate. He'll stay as Ultimate Spider-Man. There could like Rhodey will probably really lead that, but there
It
is.
might be Pepper. I mean, Pepper could step into that
Yeah, I
role as
don't
well, but
honestly with Morgan. I don't think she will. There is a series where Morgan does get an Iron Man suit.
hmm.
Um, there is. I think it was in the second movie, the kid that he saves. It was the second or first movie. He's
Hmm.
at the funeral.
Yeah,
Um,
I recall seeing him. He was the one that was standing all by himself, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
there is a story arc where he becomes the next Iron Man as like to say thank you
Oh,
for
well,
saving me.
well, he had to be there for a reason, right?
Well, so one thing that I
At the
did like about
funeral.
that movie is they did such a brilliant job of weaving all of the past movies together and
Hmm.
bringing it back as kind of a summary of, hey, this is everything that we've done. Here's all the different stories, the timelines, all the different events, and to revisit some of them were really funny. Like Hulk thrashing Loki. I'll never get
Uh,
tired of seeing that.
oh yeah,
Um, and they, Natalie Portman had a cameo. Like
yeah.
they did
She
a
was back
really
for. Yeah, that was weird. I mean, I know she had her qualms with the studio and all that stuff, but it was. I don't know. It was cool to see. I guess her to put that aside to have a small role
very
in it.
briefly,
Yeah,
very very briefly.
yeah.
God, she's a smoke show.
I agree. I agree.
Al was in the movie. Was like, is that actually Natalie Portman? I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is. Like, yeah. And she was credited, and then Al said something along the lines of like, she would be a celebrity pass, and I was like, me too.
Yeah, 100%.
What were there any plot holes that you saw that you wanted to discuss that you didn't get explained in your reading up after?
Um, I don't know about plot holes. I feel like there had to. it felt like there had to have been a way uh, to get Scarlett Johansson's character back using their time travel or something like that. I mean, hell, they changed. Well, I guess that just creates another timeline, right? That's the way they had described their time travel, is just like creating new threads.
Yeah, a possible way is to just go and steal a ScarJo from another timeline, right?
Oh, that's true.
So they could revive her character. I think they're doing a Black Widow and Hawkeye solo movie, but it's like a prequel.
Okay.
Just to kind of explain why they're so close.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, are they dating? Are they not dating? And then you find out Clint's married. And you're like, are they cheating? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then Black Widow kind of has this weird sexual tension with Bruce Banner. And then you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
So I think that would be really cool. So I imagine she'll still be in the Marvel Universe in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
But I think ultimately, depending on what direction they take for the next movies and depending on the villain and what they do, they could. And now they know that they can time travel and they have this capability. It kind of becomes this like solve all answer, right? Where, oh, we fucked this up. Well, we can just go back, do this, and then reset the timeline.
Bring another Tony Stark back with us, you know?
Yeah. But I hope they don't abuse that. But then it will also always be one of those things when anything major happens, be like, well, why don't you just go back in time?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I will say I definitely appreciated Paul Rudd in this movie, and
he is casted absolutely perfectly for Ant-Man.
Yes.
Him, Robert Downey Jr., I mean, Chris Evans is a great Captain America, but I think there's a lot of people that could have pulled that off. And
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth is perfect for Thor.
Yeah.
And God, his name's on the tip of my tongue.
Ruffalo.
Hugh Jackman and Mark Ruffalo. Yeah. I think those guys are like fit. No one will ever be able to be Iron Man.
Right.
And I'm glad that Robert Downey Jr. got to close that loop.
Me too.
Because it just wouldn't be the same with someone else coming in to be like, oh, I'm Iron Man. Like, no, you're not. You're not.
Right. Because everybody would be comparing the two. You have to have a beginning of the story arc and then an end. You know, especially with these major characters that you come to know and love. It's different if it's like some superhero that we haven't quite gotten in depth with, you know, like
or like Batman, where it's going to change, and that's the
Right.
thing. They like to switch it around, so you're just
Right.
kind of like, okay, everyone has their favorite Batman, but that's not the case for Iron Man. Like, Iron Man is Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that.
Yeah. And I mean, I know they can't do it, but I would love to. We've talked about it before. I'd love to see Deadpool somehow show up in these movies. It's hard to do because he's so R-rated, you know, but I'd love to see some sort of. But he's also got a small cross with the X-Men universe, so maybe that's just where he needs to exist.
Yeah. I don't know. Deadpool, it's going to be interesting. They'll probably do. I think they're planning on doing a third. They've been too successful not to. Yeah. And Ryan Reynolds that's a passion role for him. So, and that's the thing. We'll never have a clean universe because Marvel had no idea what they had, right?
Yeah.
And it's unless they do a complete reset, but like they did with X-Men, but then you still have the same issue where there's parallel universes going on.
Yeah.
So,
but back to Paul Rudd. I appreciated him so much in this movie, and I don't know what it is, like. He's just a regular guy with a suit, right? You know, but he's just that moment where you just giant Ant-Man running across the
And
battlefield fighting.
he uppercuts
Yeah.
that giant ship creature monster thing.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, it was hilarious.
Dude,
just stepping on shit and
I lost it. Like, it was, there's nothing too ultra special about him as a superhero. It's the suit. It's all the suit, right? But it's just, I don't know. It was just so badass. Like, I know we've seen giant Ant-Man before, right? That's not like a surprise.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knew it was a possibility, but just the idea that, oh, hey, I'm just this guy, but hey, if I turn myself 50 times the size, now I'm 50 times as powerful, or whatever, as I was before, and I'm able to inflict so much more damage. It's a pretty cool idea for like the everyday man. Like,
for sure.
Anybody can be a superhero if you got the right technology.
Yeah, it's all about the tech.
Yep.
What did you think about Cap wielding the hammer?
Oh, dude. That moment where it's like the hammer just flying through the air and then Captain just grabbing it. And I knew it was sort of going to happen because he made the hammer sort of move a little bit when he tried to pick it up in previous movies. But you sort of had an inkling that it was going to happen, but just the fact that it actually did in that moment.
And then he just goes ham with it. Like,
my god, dude!
And the
throwing
the lightning in his eyes and shit.
Yep,
and,
bouncing off Thanos, and
yeah.
Oh my god, dude! It was such a payoff moment. Like, I'm sorry if Captain America is your favorite Avenger, but if because he had to end his story arc in the way that he is in this movie. But what a send off, right?
For sure. He carried it and just crushed it.
Yeah, and it was everything you sort of wanted it to be. It was a tale of despair and hope, and I think whenever what was it, Sam was like on your left, or whoever said it, right? I can't recall who said that when he in his whenever they were calling everybody else in, and everybody Doctor Strange brought everybody back portals, in. He's like on your left, and then. Dude, it was anarchy. Like, my brain almost exploded.
That battle scene was so fucking good. That was definitely a moment where I started tearing, where everyone starts coming back and Iron Man hugs Spider-Man, and I was just, that moment. It was just so good. And that's the thing, like Tony Stark, all of that shit really weighed on him, I think, over the years. More than anyone else, right? Because he never wanted to be a soldier. Like Cap, he's a soldier. He gets people are gonna die. It's a war. And he's always ready to sacrifice himself. To see Tony go from this playboy billionaire to a hero to then, dealing with having all this power and ability to influence and make the world better, but it comes at a price, and figuring out what that price is, and learning humility, and being willing to sacrifice himself. Like, I thought all that was really cool, and just seeing everyone come through the portals. And I watched a cool video on Easter eggs, and it was talking about all the different factions. Like, Reavers were there from Guardians. Like, they brought and the Wakandans. I love the Wakandans. Like, all being there.
Yeah.
Harold the Duck was in there. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see it in time, but I did see it in the recap. So we probably watched the same video. But
probably, yeah.
The Valkyries were all like just everything. Like, everybody.
They did such a good job at just taking, giving you just enough of all of the best bits of all of the movies leading up to this. I could have watched that battle scene for fucking ever. I wish it was longer. They could have done 2 hours of that battle.
Yeah.
And I think they really could have explored more about how powerful some of those characters are. Like, I would have loved to seen Bucky just tearing through some shit.
Yeah.
I think Spider-Man had a pretty good bit. Hawkeye had a good bit. Black Panther didn't really do as much. Like, he kind of carried the gauntlet, but he didn't.
Yeah, I expected a little bit more from Black Panther, but I mean they've got other movies lined up
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
universe, so it's not we're gonna see much more from them. But um, what was it? Oh, it was when Thor shot that lightning at Iron Man. He charged him up and he shot
Oh,
all.
and then the
Yeah.
beams come out the
Oh my
side. Yeah,
God,
that was
dude.
really cool. Yeah, they just did some awesome. They closed a lot of loops. They explained a lot of things. They brought it all together, and that's why it had to be 3 hours. And I wouldn't have been upset if it was another hour. I would
Yeah.
have ran out of food. I was a fucking McDonald's suicide bomber, Zach.
So
I
sorry, go ahead.
I snuck in so much McDonald's, and I bought popcorn, and I bought candy, and I bought this giant pop.
You have to.
So that I had to look unassuming, but I had this awkward moment where I had like 5 burgers stuffed into my jacket in different places, like in my chest pockets, in my
Yeah.
like side pockets, and so then I'm like in line. I get my giant popcorn for Al and I and our drinks, and I have these M&Ms. And I'm like, fuck, I gotta get my phone to get the tickets, blah blah blah. So I like unzip my pocket to like go and shove them into my pocket. There's like cheeseburgers falling out, and I'm like, fuck, get back in there. No one see this.
Dude. So
It
that's
was so
that's
good.
awesome. You almost have to sneak in something nowadays. I mean, when I went and saw the movie, it was free. Like I didn't have to pay anything because I went. It was with a couple guys at work, and so work it just came out of our budget or whatever at work.
Oh,
you know?
that's
So,
sick.
yeah. So I saw it in 3D. I saw IMAX 3D,
Yeah.
and then I got a fucking massive soda and some what did I get? Reese's Pieces, I think. But that movie theater was so hot because everybody was just fucking
Panting, waiting
yeah.
for it.
Well, just like yeah, waiting with bated breath and like just fucking so emotional that I feel
Yeah.
like it just heated. So like my 3D glasses were fogging up. There were several times where I had to like take them off and like rub them on my
Clean
shirt. Yeah, but I was sweating when I left the movie
Oh
theater.
yeah, see, it was nice and cool. I wore a sweater and I wore a fat sweater, so I
Uh-huh.
made myself look fat, so I could hide these cheeseburgers, and then I wore a baggy jacket, so that I
Yeah.
get into the theater and I sit down, I'm waiting, and then once like the previews start, I take off my jacket and I start taking out all the cheeseburgers, and we did like the fancy recliner big chair things
Sure.
that like fully recline, and you have this nice wide armrest, and I just stack this mountain of McDonald's on one side, and then my soda and everything, and then I have my jacket as a blanket, and I was just like bundled up, so fucking happy.
Yeah,
And oh my god, there were people behind us talking,
I hate
during the-
that.
and Al turned around and gave them a look, and then they just shut right the fuck up. But I was so pissed. I was just like, don't ask me questions. I don't want to hear anyone talking.
Right.
I want to sit down and I want to watch this movie. And honestly, I might go again and watch it by myself and just sit there and take it all in.
I've thought about doing that too.
Because there's so much to see. You know?
Yeah, and I feel like there's going to be stuff I'm going to pick up on, after watching it a second time. But I keep thinking about when they're going back to try to get the Tesseract from New York, and Hulk has to take the stairs. They make him take the
hate
stairs.
stairs.
Stupid stairs.
Yeah,
And
it was pretty good.
yeah, but then it sort of backfires on Tony. 'Cause
I got hit by a Hulk.
he got fucking creamed so hard. But I also like that moment where you had Tony meeting back up, talking
with his
to
dad?
his dad.
Yeah,
And-
that was a touching moment for
yeah,
sure.
that was. And then he hugged him at the end, and I was like, oh, that's really sweet, but it's also got to be sort of
Fucking weird.
yeah, weird.
He's like, he seemed really familiar.
He like hugged him, and he's like thank you for your service or whatever he said.
Yeah.
I forget what he said, but I like that Jarvis was there, and you sort of got to see the what was going to become
Yeah. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
AI for Iron Man, but just like an actual physical representation of that. And
That was pretty cool.
yeah.
I I I fucking died laughing, and it wasn't a funny part. But when in that same timeline where Cap is looking at, I forgot her name, his girlfriend, and he's looking at her through the blinds, and they're like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
face to face, but she couldn't see. Maybe it was a mirror or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, all I could think of was Jim from The Office staring, like
Oh,
that
through
meme
the
of him
yeah,
staring through
through
the
the
blinds.
blinds. Yeah.
And then whenever I
Yeah.
think of Jim from The Office, I think of Joe because I think they look so much alike.
Yeah, especially
When
if
Joe
you,
had longer
yep,
hair.
if Joe had longer hair and he made like a weird sideways face, you know.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so then I just thought of Joe and then you guys. I was like, I miss you guys. So I
Oh,
was really
miss you too,
excited
man.
about doing this episode.
Yeah, I was really excited
Um,
too, man.
so we're coming up to the hour. What are some final thoughts? What are you looking forward to? What did any things that you felt like you really liked you had to share that we haven't talked about, or anything that you felt like you didn't like that you need to tell people about? Or simple, we can just send it off.
No, I mean, I think the thing that I'm most excited for going forward in the Marvel universe is the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, interesting. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot better with Thor. I think it's going to be really hard. I like the banter
Mm-hmm.
between Thor and Star-Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Um I I'd be worried that Thor will overshadow that series because he is extremely overpowered
Sure.
in that kind of, I guess, universe. I don't want to say universe, but in space. Like,
Yeah.
if you think about the people that Star Lord faced, I guess he's kind of, there's some that are kind of powerful, but like at the end of the day, Star Lord is just a dude with a suit, right? And
Right.
Thor will crush him.
Oh,
Um,
100%. 100%.
but I love their banter between each other.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of cool. I didn't hate Guardians. That was the other thing too from the big battle scene. I would have liked to seen more Groot.
Oh, yeah, you barely saw Groot at all. Like I was expecting him like to be back in a major way. Like I mean,
Yeah,
not back to like 8 foot tall Groot that
but he was
Vin
still
Diesel
he was
Groot,
still
but
kind of like
he's like he's
teenagery
teenager
Groot.
angsty, yeah, Groot.
Yeah,
Um, but I still expect like, you know, just him to be able to deploy his root system and just like trip people up, or
yeah.
like I expected so much more. And that's one thing that I noticed too, because there wasn't that moment. I think there was a point where Groot and Rocket shared a moment, but they were like laying on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Like after he got hit, or so Rocket got hit or something like that. But there wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting, because that was a very hard thing for Rocket to go through, losing Groot.
Yeah,
And so I expected there to be more of a
a
a
moment there. Yeah, I know what you
cathartic
mean.
a cathartic moment between the two of them that didn't really pay off. And I'm hoping that like in whatever Blu-ray extras they release, I hope there's like a deleted scene that just
Or
didn't get added in.
the extended version. They
Dude,
will. I will 100% watch the extended version.
yes, 100%.
So, yeah, Guardian of the Galaxy. I'm excited for. I'm excited for more Spider-Man. I think
Mm-hmm.
again he's the best. He's the best Spider-Man in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm I'm interested to see what the next big villain will be.
In Spider-Man
No, just
universe.
in Avengers in general,
Oh,
and how they're gonna weave if Falcon and Winter Soldier have a TV show and what that will
mm-hmm.
do to the movies and how that will influence the movies and if that TV show will be a hit. I don't think Marvel. I don't think like Marvel TV shows have done that well. At least I haven't enjoyed them, but I know the
Right.
diehards will watch them because it's anything Marvel they'll support. So it'd
Yeah.
be interesting to see how that goes. More Black Panther will be sweet, but it's just one of those things that's hard to go. How do you go from here,
Yeah.
what's the next big thing? Like, oh no, they're going to eat the world. Like if they brought in Galactus, it's going to eat the world. Well, I mean, now that you know that it doesn't really matter because we have time travel, we have space travel, and
Yeah.
there's a bunch of other worlds where there's humans on it, which that might be interesting if they explain more, because they call humans Terrans a lot,
Mm-hmm.
which is good and accurate. But to see why are there more humans than just what's on Earth, and why haven't
Mm.
we? Why doesn't no one ever travel back to Earth?
Yeah. I think I'd be interested in, once the Ant-Man saga plays out, I think I'd be interested in seeing his exit be more of a massive blow to whatever universe they decide to go with, because if they get rid of the ability to transport around and jump through time as
Mm-hmm.
Ant-Man through the quantum realm or whatever, then yeah, I don't know. Then I think everything sort of balances itself back out. But I also know that, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, he's not responsible for the technology to be able to
Yeah,
do that.
yeah,
So,
it's Pym particles, right? But
right.
between Rocket and Bruce Banner, and well, maybe not now Tony, but you in that. So Rocket says that, right? Like to Tony, where he's like something along the lines of "Easy there, you might be a genius here on Earth, but it's just Earth."
Yeah.
And like Rocket is really really smart too,
Yeah,
right? And
that's true.
so they might find. I'm sure they'll find a way to replicate that. Otherwise, Ant-Man ceases to exist if they don't have Pym
Yeah.
particle.
Yeah. I just, I would like to see it get back to a point where not everything is possible. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I agree. So it'll be interesting to see what they do and when they plan on rolling it out. I haven't looked at any schedules for
I
movie
haven't
movie
either.
releases yet. I might dig into that, but so all in all, I was very happy. I was very very happy. They did a great job. If you had to give it a rating out of 5 jumbled popcorn boxes, what would you give it?
I'm giving it. I'm giving it 5.
Me too. I'm going to give it a solid 5. Even the little pieces that bugged me, I got over it and I
Yeah.
understand it. And I think they did a good job at covering their asses,
Mm-hmm.
and they left some stuff open to the imagination.
Yep.
And it'd be interesting to see what they do in the future. Maybe they offer, what's his face? Chris, one of the Chris's, not Chris Pine, not Chris Hemsworth,
Evans.
Chris Evans enough money to come back and do a completely different universe of here's what his life was like, because Captain is still Captain. He's not just going to sit there and
No.
go to an office job, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was still Captain America. He had just
Mm-hmm.
created this other
But
thread of existence for him.
an interesting thing is that in that universe, wherever he was, there would be 2 Captain Americas, and one would be covered in ice, and he would know that.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, does he go and get himself?
Does he go and get himself in order to fight whatever?
Yeah,
Dude, that would actually be pretty sweet.
2 caps.
2 caps.
So
But is Captain okay, so here's another thing, right? Captain America from the future who went back in time is still worthy enough to hold Mjolnir.
yep,
So now
he
not
could claim it.
he could claim it.
Yep.
Dude, that'd be sick. But then that opens up like a Thor versus
Captain.
Captain sort of
They could do some interesting Civil War stuff.
dude, that'd be there's so many possibilities now.
There are.
You know what? Screw it. I want them to keep going with time travel because that just creates an ever expanding list of movies and things that they can do. So I'm totally open for that.
Well, I agree, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on. And you know what else I'm looking forward to, Zach?
What's up?
Doing more podcasts like this. Obviously, we can't do it for every movie,
Right.
but when something big like this comes along, it was pretty sweet to sit down and really dig into it with you.
Yeah.
And hopefully our listeners like this special episode. If you don't, sorry, but not sorry.
And you know what? We're also sorry that if you're the kind of person that skips around, maybe if you skipped over the first part of the podcast where we put the spoiler, your whole day has been ruined. But you know
if
what?
you made it to this far,
They just scrubbed right past the first 2 minutes, and then everything was ruined.
yeah,
That's your own
absolutely.
fault. You should get into the process
You
of
should
listening
go
to the
see-
entirety of the episodes.
Speaking of spoilers, Game of Thrones is coming up here shortly, so I gotta go and invest some of my life into that shit show.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up here, guys. What did you think of Endgame? If you've seen it, hopefully you have. If you haven't, I guess you're just a glutton for punishment, and you like having movies ruined. But what did you think of Endgame? Send us messages to any of our social media at Jumbled Podcast. Send emails with your thoughts to jumbledpodcast@gmail.com or johnny.jumbled@gmail.com. Let's see here. Thanks to Audible for sponsoring the podcast. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled. Get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. Head over to Patreon. Give us $500 and get us an address. And let's see here. What else? Oh, we're on all the podcasting platforms. Whatever you do, head over to iTunes. Give us a rating and review. It helps out a lot. And yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, Johnny. I really have liked this one too. I think it's rare for Jumbled to actually stick to one theme for the entirety of the podcast, but
We did a pretty good job at staying on topic.
there was just so much to this to the movie that we probably could honestly record for another couple hours, but
Absolutely.
we're gonna end it here. Thanks guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Jumbled, your favorite podcast.
But whenever the fuck we want.
See you guys. I take it that means you're recording.
Yes.